The chains snapped tight around. My car in the tow truck started to pull when she screamed, "That car is illegal! Take it now!" I stepped forward and told the driver to stop because this was my driveway, my land. She laughed in my face and waved a paper like a badge. "HOA order," she said, loud enough for my kids to hear. My son held my hand harder when the car lifted off the ground. And that's when I felt it. That cold anger you get when someone thinks you are weak. She stood there smiling, phone up, recording, telling everyone I was a rule breaker who refused to listen. She said I didn't belong here, that people like me always cause trouble. I stayed quiet, not because I was scared, but because I was counting every move she made. The tow truck drove off with my car, and she leaned close and whispered, "Next time." I locked the house. That moment burned. Losing the car hurt, but seeing my kids watch it happen hurt more. A police car rolled in minutes later, lights flashing, and she pointed at me like she owned the street. "That's him," she said. "He threatened me." The cop looked tired, asked a few questions, and told me to stay calm. She crossed her arms and smiled again, sure she had won. What she didn't know was that every camera on my property was live, and every word she said was saved. I glanced at the empty driveway and thought about the paperwork sitting in my safe. Papers that said this land was never under HOA control. I watched her walk away like a queen after a battle, already telling neighbors I'd be gone by night. I pulled my kids close and said nothing. But my phone buzzed with a single message I'd been waiting for. I looked back at the street and whispered to myself, "She thinks she towed a car. She has no idea what's parked on this land. I didn't chase the tow truck." I didn't argue with her again. I just walked inside, closed the door, and made one call. Not to a lawyer, not to the HOA, but to someone who owed me a favor from years ago. My daughter asked if we were in trouble. I told her, no, we're just letting the truth catch up. An hour later, the street changed. Engines rumbled, deep and slow, not like normal cars. Neighbors stepped out, phones up, confused. She came back too, heels clicking fast, face tight. "What now?" she shouted. Then the sound got louder. Metal on asphalt, heavy, serious. A massive flatbed turned the corner, and on it sat a 25-ton military tank. Paint faded, scars still on steel. Her smile vanished. "That can't be here," she yelled, running toward it. "This is HOA property." The driver didn't even look at her. He looked at me instead and nodded. The tank rolled down, shaking the ground, stopping right where my car used to be. Kids stared. Neighbors whispered. Phones recorded everything. She stormed up to me, shaking. "I'll call the police again." "You're done." I leaned close and spoke low so only she could hear. "Go ahead. But make sure they bring someone who understands federal permits." Her face went pale. She stepped back, suddenly unsure, suddenly quiet. The tank didn't fire. It didn't move again. It just sat there, silent, heavy, legal. And for the first time that day, she realized she might have judged the wrong person. She did call the police again. This time she was yelling so loud the whole block heard it. "There's a weapon in the neighborhood," she screamed, pointing like the tank might attack her. 2 patrol cars came fast, then a third. Officers stepped out careful, hands near their belts, eyes locked on the steel monster sitting in my driveway. One officer asked me, "Sir, is that yours?" I nodded. "Yes." She jumped in. "He's lying. No civilian can own that. Arrest him now." I stayed calm and handed the officer a folder. He flipped through it slowly. Permits, federal clearance, transport orders. His face changed. He stepped away, made a call, then came back more serious than before. "Ma'am," he said to her, "this vehicle is legally owned and registered." Her voice cracked. "That's impossible." Another officer asked her why. She had a tow truck. "Remove my car without police authorization." She said it was HOA business. That's when I showed the body cam footage from my driveway cameras. Her ordering the tow, her fake notice, her threats about my kids. The street went quiet. Neighbors leaned closer. One officer looked at her and said, "There is no active HOA authority on this property." She started backing up, talking fast, blaming others, saying she was just enforcing rules. Then a black SUV pulled in. A man stepped out, older, calm, with a badge clipped to his belt. He walked straight to me and shook my hand. "Good to see you again," he said. She froze. That's when it hit her. This wasn't just a tank. I looked at her and said the line people still quote now. You towed the wrong man's car? The man from the black SUV didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He asked one simple question, looking straight at her. Who told you this land was under HOA control? She opened her mouth, closed it, then pointed at a neighbor like that would save her. The officer checked his tablet again, then turned it so everyone could see. The map was clear. My property sat outside the HOA line. Always had. Her tone changed fast. I was just doing my job, she said, softer now. The older man shook his head. You don't have a job here. He asked her for ID. She hesitated. That pause said everything. When she handed it over, his jaw tightened. You've been warned before, he said quietly. I watched as an officer took notes. Another called the tow company. The driver who took my car came back, nervous now, saying he was misled. The order came through on speaker. My car was to be returned. No fee, no argument. Neighbors started whispering louder, some shaking their heads, some smiling. She tried one last move. She pointed at the tank again. That thing is a danger to children. I looked at my kids, standing safely behind the fence and then back at her. So is what you did today, I said. The older man nodded. False reports. Impersonation. Trespassing, he listed calmly. When the officer clicked the cuffs on her wrists, she finally lost control. She shouted about power, rules, respect. No one listened. The tank sat silent. My driveway felt whole again, and as she was walked to the car, one neighbor said out loud what everyone was thinking. Guess the HOA doesn't own this street after all. They put her in the back seat. But the story didn't end there. As the police car pulled away, another patrol stayed behind. The older man walked with me to the edge of the driveway and spoke low. You know this won't stop them. Others will try, I nodded. I know. That's why I waited. He looked at the tank again, then at me. You always plan ahead. The tow company dropped my car back like it was fragile glass. The driver didn't look me in the eye. Neighbors came closer now, asking questions, saying sorry for not speaking up before. One of them said she had been fined by the same woman for a flag that was too patriotic. Another said his trash. Cans were moved on purpose. Piece by piece, the pattern showed itself. Then my phone rang again. I put it on speaker. A calm voice said, We confirmed it. She's not even listed as HOA staff. She forged everything. A few gasps came from the crowd. Someone whispered, So she was just doing this for fun? I shook my head. No, for control. The older man smiled slightly. There's more, he said. She has an open case in another county. At that moment, I realized the tank wasn't the biggest shock anymore. The truth was heavier. I looked at my kids, then at the neighbors. This isn't about me, I said. It's about anyone who was scared to say no. And as the sun dropped behind the houses, one thing was clear. This street was done being quiet. The next morning felt different. No notes on doors. No threats shouted across lawns. Just quiet. The kind that comes after a storm. But it didn't last. 2 unmarked cars stopped at the end of the street, and people stepped out with folders and cameras. Not police this time. Investigators. They went house to house, asking the same name, hearing the same stories. Fines that made no sense. Warnings that weren't real. Fear used like a weapon. When they reached my driveway, one of them stopped and stared at the tank. So this is where it broke, he said. I told him it broke the moment she thought no one could stop her. He nodded and asked for my footage. I gave him everything, raw, untouched. He smiled once and said, This will be played in court. By noon, word spread fast. The HOA board released a statement trying to distance themselves, saying she acted alone. That lie didn't last long. Emails surfaced. Messages with approvals. Signatures they forgot to hide. Neighbors gathered again, phones out, watching the truth come out in real time. You could see it on their faces, anger mixed with relief. Then another call came. The same calm voice as before. We're moving her case up. Charges are expanding. I asked how serious. There was a pause. Serious enough that she won't be knocking on anyone's door again. I looked at the flag on my porch, still flying, still untouched. My son asked if the tank would stay. I smiled and said, just long enough to remind people, because sometimes freedom doesn't need to speak loud. It just needs to show up. Court day came faster than anyone expected. The room was packed. Neighbors sat behind me, quiet but solid. She walked in wearing a different face. Softer, careful like none of us knew her. Her lawyer talked about mistakes, stress, misunderstandings. It almost worked. Almost. Then the screen turned on. Video after video played. Her voice ordering the tow. Her fake notices. Her laughing when my kids cried. You could feel the air leave the room. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp now. She tried to explain, tried to shift blame, but every word made it worse. Then came the last twist. The older man stood and showed one final document. It proved she had taken money. Small amounts from many people. Fines that went straight to her account. The judge didn't interrupt this time. He just listened, long and quiet, then spoke one sentence that hit hard. You didn't enforce rules. You abused trust. When the cuffs came out again, this time inside a courtroom, no one cheered. We didn't need to. Justice felt heavy, real. As she was led away, she looked at me one last time, not angry anymore. Just empty. Outside, my kids ran to me. Neighbors shook my hand. Someone said, "You changed this street." I looked back at the building and answered slow, "No." The truth did. And in that moment, I knew this story wasn't just about a car or a tank. It was about never letting fear pretend its power. That evening, I drove my car back into the driveway myself. No cameras, no crowd. Just my kids sitting on the porch waiting. The tank was gone now, hauled away before sunset, leaving deep marks on the ground. Marks that would fade but not be forgotten. The street looked normal again, but it didn't feel the same. It felt lighter. A neighbor walked over with a folded flag in his hands. He said it had been taken down once, quietly, months ago. No one knew who did it. He handed it to me and said, "Put it back." I fixed it to the pole while my kids watched. When it caught the wind, something in my chest finally relaxed. Later that night, my daughter asked why that woman hated us so much. I told her the truth. She didn't hate us. She hated that she couldn't control us. She thought about that for a long moment, then smiled. She picked the wrong house. I nodded. She did. The streetlights came on one by one. Doors closed. Life moved forward. And as I stood there looking at my home, I said the line that stayed with everyone who heard it. I didn't fight for this country to be told I don't belong on my own land. The story didn't end with noise or fire. It ended with something stronger. A quiet street, a safe family, and the kind of freedom that doesn't ask for permission. The cops had taken her away. The tow truck returned my car, and the tank was gone. My kids ran to me, neighbors whispered their relief, and the street finally felt safe. I looked at my home, the flag waving in the wind, and said, "She thought she owned this street." But we owned the truth.